Okay, so I want to do this thing where we talk about Spencer Rattler in what I think is a mature way, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today, I want to talk about Spencer Rattler. Now, later on in this video, I got this segment that I do with Barrett Sallee on his show on Serious College Football. We talk about OU, Trey Norwood, Alex Grinch, and of course Spencer Rattler. But he asked me a question I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to expound on it a little bit, which was, would we see any specific packages for Spencer Rattler this year? And I don't think so, right? I don't think so because he's not Kyler Murray, and that has a lot to do with it. So Kyler Murray's ability to run was just putting him in the 0.1%. He's just that fast. Like, we don't have it on tape, but we're pretty sure the dude has 4.3 speed. And you wanted to get him as many snaps as you could in 2017 while also respecting that Baker Mayfield is your starting quarterback, as Lincoln Riley basically was saying from jump, which is, I want to do one quarterback. I don't want to have two. You know, he's not going to have a two quarterback system. That's just not the kind of coach he is. He believes if you don't have one, you have none, right? Two is zero. And I get that because that's also been part of how he has coached going back to East Carolina, even being interim offensive coordinator at Texas Tech. He wants to have the one guy and the one guy be the guy. And with Kyler Murray, the difference is that dude was eligible. And by eligible, I mean there was no red shirt, right? It's gone. You're basically just waiting your turn for Baker Mayfield at that time. Spencer Rattler is a true freshman. And while he is supremely talented, he does not have the experience at this level that even Kyler Murray had. Like, Kyler Murray played a full season of college football at A&M before transferring and then was in the system for 2 years before starting. I think that's what Spencer Rattler's going to look at. He's going to spend a couple of years, if not, maybe not a couple of years, but at least this year, just learning what it means to be a quarterback at Oklahoma. Actually, not just from Jalen Hurts, but from Tanner Mordecai, even Tanner Schaefer. There's a lot of stuff that Spencer Rattler needs to pick up before we are comfortable with that dude actually getting the keys. Now, I know that the counterpoint to this is always going to be Trevor Lawrence forever and ever, because not only did he start as a true freshman, not only did he usurp a guy that went 16-2 as a starter in Kelly Bryant, he won a national championship, and he didn't just win a national championship. He dismantled Notre Dame, and he dismantled Alabama in succession. 347 yards, 3 TDs, 44-16 in the game that mattered the most. Sunshine is that dude. I'm not so certain that Spencer Rattler is that dude. I know there's a lot of folks that just want to see a younger guy play, but remember how we talked about Buki in the lead up to last year and how everybody wanted to see that kid play? And now I'm over here defending Buki and defending how he's being used at Oklahoma and defending the kid's attitude, all because people wanted to jump the gun and get ahead of a dude that probably needed a little bit more time to develop. Now, it's also playing defensive back, which is not as difficult as playing quarterback. Also does not come with the responsibility that playing quarterback comes with. You are the dude that has to shoulder everything. You are the talisman. You're the guy that takes the fall. You're the guy everybody looks to when things don't go well, as well as when they do, which is why you win the Heisman Trophy in cases where the team plays well. You know, we're talking about a position that is singular. There is no other position like it. And to put that on the shoulders of an 18-year-old, 19-year-old dude is heady, right? And I think Dabo Swinney needed to do that even differently, even as he did it with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, looking at Kelly Bryant and the way that he had to lead them in that A&M game, I can understand why he would want to go. You're the more experienced guy. It's your time. And this is also a really interesting time for college football in the year of the transfer quarterback, which I need to do that segment. But I want to do this one where I say, I think we're not going to see any design packages for Spencer Rattler at all. I think the only time we're going to see him is in mop-up time. I think the guy that's going to get the call next up is Tanner Mordecai because he does not have any eligibility left after the next 4 years. He used his redshirt year. You got to use him or not, right? And in many ways, you're looking at what happened to Austin Kendall maybe happening at Oklahoma again because I say it and I'll say it again. I said it to Barrett. Austin Kendall was the more highly rated quarterback coming out in 2014 of Jalen Hurts and Austin Kendall. The difference is Jalen Hurts got an opportunity to play right away. Austin Kendall had to sit. You could say, yeah, he had to sit behind Baker Mayfield, who won the Heisman. He had to sit behind Kyler Murray, who won the Heisman. And then he wasn't actually given the job. Now, you want competition, but the whole next man up stuff, that's where this gets really, really crappy. Because you'll tell kids, hey, get the experience, wait your turn. When you're a junior, when you're a senior, it'll be your time. What are you telling Austin Kendall then? And that's one of the few mistakes I think that Lincoln Riley made. But we'll see, right? Because if Jalen Hurts ends up winning a national championship, then I'm the guy that looks like an idiot, which I'm perfectly fine with because Oklahoma will have won a national championship. However, I do think that when it comes to treating people correctly and treating them right, you're going to give the edge to the guy that's a little bit older if they're neck and neck in talent. And I think that Spencer is going to have to sit for just this year, play some mop-up time, play your 4 games, use your redshirt rule, learn what it means to be a quarterback at this level, and then we'll get to talk about Spencer Rattler in the way that we're talking about him now in 2020. I know that's not going to shut people up. I know that's not going to stop you from having an opinion. That's okay. I just wanted to be realistic and mature about what we expect to see from Spencer Rattler in 2019. Now, let's do my segment with Barrett Sallee on Sirius.
Welcome back to College Sports Sunday, 888-573-5555. If you want to get in touch with the show, we're going to talk a little Oklahoma football, a little Big 12 football now with RJ Young of 97.1 in Tulsa, also OU Insider. You can follow RJ at RJ_Young. RJ, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, Barrett. I'm good, man.
So there was big news this week out of Norman. Trey Norwood, nickel, corner, safety, played at pretty much everything in that Oklahoma defense, perhaps one of the stars of that Oklahoma defense, potentially out for a long time with a knee injury. How big of a hit would this be to Alex Grinch's new look defense? Well,
this really just what you pointed out, versatility, right? That's what you're losing. You're losing a guy that can play all 5 defensive back positions in his scheme, and that's a really big deal if for no other reason than you just wanted to have the cover there. And one of the things that Alex Grinch has been preaching and trying to get across to not just the kiddos, but media and fans is I want competition. And the only way you have competition is to have great depth. Or so they tell us, right? We're going to find out just how deep the secondary is again, because not unlike last year, they started the season without Chance Sylvie, who went out with an Achilles. And this year, they're going to start without a veteran at the very least. It's not a guy that was necessarily projected to start, but he's always showed up in big games. He showed up in the Rose Bowl in 2017. He showed up in the TCU game in the Big 12 Championship in 2017. And they found ways to get him on the field at safety, at nickel, at corner. And this is a guy that he wasn't buzzing when we first learned of him when he got to Oklahoma. He was just the kind of kid that would, you'd rather have him than not, but you didn't expect him to be the, contributor that he's turned out to be. So you're losing experience, and you're losing another set of legs that you could throw back there.
RJ, we've all talked about Oklahoma's defense or lack thereof for, 2-3 years at this point, right? Worst passing defense in the country last year, worst red zone touchdown defense by far in the country last year. Alex Grinch is in now, changing things up. Obviously, he has a track record of success. How much success does he have to have? How much success does that defense need to have? How much improvement do they have to have in order to complement what will be sort of a new look offense with Jalen Hurts?
It's an interesting question because there are folks in Soonerland who believe that you are a competent defense away from being not just 2017, 2018 national champs, but you could have built a dynasty based on you beat Georgia with a competent defense. You might beat Alabama with a competent defense. So we're looking at rankings because that's all we have to go on, right? We have statistics to go on because we don't actually know what this might look like if OU wasn't the worst of the worst. If they were middling, you're thinking that they're really, really good. And despite the offense maybe looking different with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, I think 2 things, right? Number 1 is you're going to play to his strengths. Number 2 is he came to Oklahoma not just to grad transfer, but because he wanted to get better as a quarterback. And if his mechanics improve in the way that we think that they might, you might not see that much of a difference in the offense. You just got a linebacker back there playing quarterback as opposed to a slight guy in Kyler Murray and a guy that probably didn't have the wheels that Jalen Hurts has in Baker Mayfield. So I'm not really that concerned about what the offense is going to do, but what is middling for this Oklahoma defense? That's a really good question because you got to score in this conference. You're going to move the ball, and everybody can move the ball, save just a couple of teams. But you won't really have an answer to your question unless they make the college football playoff, because the non-conference schedule, you play an American team, Houston, all right, cool. You play a bad Pac-12 team in UCLA, and South Dakota shouldn't be a challenge at all. So we're really not going to have a great answer until maybe Texas, but that's not really the kind of offense that you need to see this defense play against. It's one that's in the SEC. It's one at the top of the ACC. It's top of the Big Ten, and we won't get that answer unless they make the college football playoff.
RJ Young, 97.1 in Tulsa, also OU insider joining us here on College Sports Sunday. And you mentioned the game against Houston that opening Sunday night. Really interesting, and I think potentially tricky is the right word, game for that defense, because Dana Holgerson's in there. We know his track record. D'Eriq King is one of the best quarterbacks and one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the country. How concerned should Oklahoma fans be with that kind of team in the opener?
If you don't beat that team by 3 touchdowns, then you have cause to be concerned. Not because you should just run roughshod over that offense. We all know what Marquez Stevenson can do. We know what D'Eriq King can do. We know what Kyle Porter might be capable of. But that is the only defense that Oklahoma might face that is worse than the one they have right now. All right, you look at what they return at safety, it ain't a whole lot. What they return at cornerback, it ain't a whole lot. They're losing pass rushers. Ed Oliver is not walking out of that tunnel. So if you don't beat them like a drum, then you got a problem. But then, that's also Houston, right? Because nobody expected Tom Herman to get a W over Oklahoma, and that's exactly what he did when he was down there at Houston. Now, granted, he did have Ed Oliver, and he did have Greg Ward, which, you could make an argument is like having D'Eriq King for Dana Holgorsen. I think the thing to really watch there is, can they keep that team from scoring 45, right? Because Dana Holgorsen's going to know what he knows how to do. But if they can keep him from scoring 45, I feel pretty good about that. Now, that said, if Oklahoma doesn't score 60, we got a problem too.
Well, that's absolutely true. RJ Young joining us here on College Sports Sunday. And RJ, I'm a big proponent of Big 12 football. I think the Big 12 is going to be one of the more compelling conferences in college football, and not just because of Oklahoma and Texas meeting potentially twice again, and that Texas saying that it's back, but teams like TCU, that a team like it was completely decimated by injuries. A team like Iowa State, one of the best coached teams in the country, with I'd say some legit defensive stars on that team. Even Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy and Baylor with Matt Rule, those are really good football teams. Outside of Texas, how should Oklahoma fans view the rest of the Big 12 going in?
Well, OU fans are going to view it as their conference, right? Because you don't take losses in this conference very well if you're an OU fan, because you just haven't had that many. In the last 5 years, you've lost 7 games combined across the conference, 138, right? That's the only Big 12 team with single-digit losses in the last 5 years. So you're looking at the rest of this conference going, we should beat everybody going away. That said, I believe what you're saying is true about TCU, but they've always been a quarterback away. The last time that they were really good, Trayvon Boykin was quarterback, right? And when Casey Paul Hall was still there, they were good. So if Max Duggan wins that job, or Alex Delton, becomes some sort of transformer and turns into a really great quarterback, then I'm really scared of them. Iowa State is going to be Iowa State, right? They have running backs to go there. I'm really high on Breece Hall, guy out of Northwest Wichita, who might end up getting snaps as a true freshman. And I don't know why everybody seems not to want to mention Kansas State. I like Kansas State. I like Chris Kleiman more. And I like him walking in there with the thing you got to have more than anything else in coaching, which is you know how to win. And that might be the best FCS coach of all time, walking into a job that's really tailor-made for how he coaches football and how he wants to run his program. So you got a really interesting Big 12 battles from about 3 to 7. But outside of that, if you're an OU fan, I don't know why you would really get, be afraid of any one of these teams, because you should just out-talent most, if not all of them.
RJ, one of the talented players I know you've rostered is Spencer Rattler, of course, 5-star quarterback. One of, if not the most high-profile quarterback coming out of the class of 2019. He's on campus now. What's the likelihood of him playing not just a role, but as a backup, but a significant role as a package quarterback for this year's Oklahoma Sooners?
I'd say little to none. And that's really I hate to say it, but little to none, just judging by Lincoln Riley's track record. In a year where Graham Mertz is probably going to start, we're talking about Max Duggan, we're talking about Bo Nix, we're talking about like 3 dudes out of Arizona State as true freshmen who have an opportunity to start. The best quarterback in the class is probably not going to see much of the field this year because that's not just what Lincoln Riley wants to do. I mean, he had a package in there for Kyler Murray in 2017, but you saw it just the one time against Ohio State, and it was a zone read pitch, and that's not Spencer Rattler's skill set. His skill set is much more in line with that of a Pat Mahomes, a guy that needs the ball and needs to be able to move and throw with the ball to be dangerous, right? And I also think that, you want to give Tanner Mordecai every opportunity because you're trying to keep him on campus in the age of the transfer portal. And you probably have Spencer Rattler already lined up to think you're going to redshirt this year. And that's just been sticking with what Lincoln Riley's done. In many ways, I think that's why he lost Austin Kendall to West Virginia. I mean, we forget that Austin Kendall was rated higher than Jalen Hurts was coming out of the same 2014 class. The difference is Hurts got to play right away. Austin Kendall did not. And I think that can come back to bite you when you're really just trying to build your offense around one guy and what one guy can do. And that's the way that Lincoln Riley has built every offense that he's had going back to his days at East Carolina.
RJ, last thing, NFL coaches have been basically flocking to Norman to learn from what Lincoln Riley is doing because of the success he's had specifically at quarterback, sending players to the NFL. He's young. He's got options. Do you see Lincoln ever scratching that itch and going to the NFL, even if it's only a temporary job and that he finds out he comes back and likes college more like Nick Saban?
I think he'd have to win a national championship first. I think he's got too close, 3 years now, 2 as a head coach, to not win one. I think if he won a national championship, yeah, we could see him bolt because you might want to find out what you're made of at that level, but it's also just different. And I think he's really set up in a great situation at Oklahoma. And I mean, we all know the job that Oklahoma is, but he's basically got everything that he needs and everything that he wants. And Joe Constiglione has said, I'm going to try to match money for market value for what you're doing and keep rewriting his contract every year he does something special. So outside of winning a national championship, I don't see a reason for him to leave Oklahoma for any job in the pros because the job that you might be taking there ain't going to be the job that you have at Oklahoma already. You're going to have to build that. You're not going to be hired by a team that's got a winning record. They keep their head coaches. You're going to take on a team that's a shambles. And I'm not sure that that's even something that you want to go toward after you inherited this situation and you've done what he's done with it in just 2 years.
And that national championship could come as soon as this year if that defense gets straightened out. RJ, appreciate you hopping on this morning, talking a little Oklahoma football and Big 12 football with us.
Hey, Barrett, big fan of yours, man. I appreciate it.